Hey, bro. So I appreciate you doing this because it's Mental Health Awareness Month. And, this comes in so many different forms. Yeah. And I don't want to say it's a passion project of mine, but I am over the negative stigma about mental health awareness. Nobody wants to talk about it over the years. And the conversation has been rolling for a handful of years, but we got to keep it moving forward so that when somebody, asks for help or leans on a friend or a loved one or a family member, it's not a big fat surprise. You know what I mean?
Yep. Amen.
So I appreciate you, Patrick, joining me, Patrick Cullinan. We went to high school together and we lost touch for quite some time and we reconnected a couple of years ago. Your journey over the years, and if you could maybe just kind of give us, the Cliff Notes version of that, because you're in a pretty incredible place right now and have been for many years, but the struggle had been a tough one for you for a long time.
It had. Brother, I'm so glad that we have reconnected. We've known each other for so many years, and, we were good friends in high school, and to see you doing good things in your life and me seeing good things, it just me doing good things as well, it just warms my heart.
Yes, sir.
Especially that we both have a passion for this with mental health, and I can't thank you enough for having this conversation.
Well, you've actually put me in contact with Kim and her service dog Thor with Badges United, which is an incredible organization, which I'm going to catch up with her probably in the next 2 weeks. And so, good things happen to good people, and I think we have to stick together and tell our stories so that if there's one person listening that's in a situation where they feel like the walls are just they're caving in, this sounds maybe a little cliche, but there is absolutely hope. And through your story, I hope somebody reaches out for their own help.
Man, I hope so. I really do. And I want to hit with some cliff notes on, what got me to where I am today. And I guess it all starts with, my childhood. I had a pretty good childhood. I have good memories of growing up as a child. My parents got divorced when I was 6 years old, but I'm sure that they had their differences and argued, but they always kept me out of it. So I didn't see that. I saw that when my parents did go their separate ways, that when I was with my dad, I was happy. When I was with my mom, I was happy. But moving forward to 13, that's when I first had my first experience with alcohol. And a buddy of mine, the two of us, we ended up getting a hold of a 6-pack of beer and drinking it. We drank 3 beers apiece. And Josh, I loved what that did for me. It literally made me feel 10 foot tall, and I could do anything in the world that first time I drank those 3 beers. And moving forward throughout my teenage years, I drank as often as I could. Now, that doesn't mean that I drank every day, every week, or every month, but if I had the opportunity to drink alcohol, I did, because I liked the way it made me feel. And so moving forward with that, I went off to college, and, any kid that goes off to college, that's the first time that you really have the opportunity to do a lot of things on your own, without as many consequences of being a teenager. You're not coming home to somebody if you're coming home drinking.
Yep.
So I went to the next level there in college drinking. And that's where I started seeing some consequences because of my actions with drinking too much, but nothing really major. Well, I had always known, I was raised by a mom that was an RN and a dad that was a deputy sheriff. And I always knew that I wanted to be in one of those fields. I just didn't know which to begin with. So as I got older and I was a young adult, I decided I was going to get into the EMS world. That's kind of like a mix of, your mom being an RN and your dad being a deputy sheriff. It still puts me in public safety, but in the medical field. And so I became an EMT at home. And then I really started being intrigued by the fire service. And so I went to the county fire department and I was working EMS and fire. And the reason that I tell you this is when I really started to experience trauma for the first time in my life. And I was seeing things that are just unfathomable, things that I never imagined that I would experience, especially deaths of children. That was just something that I never wrapped my head around that I would have to experience. And it's one thing to see the death of a child, but to see the death of a child in a traumatic event, that just takes it to another level.
And you're talking specifically about when you were on the job as a firefighter or on the job as an EMT, right?
That's correct. Yep, responding to these calls, especially a lot of car crashes. And then I experienced the death of a couple of children in a house fire. And, you know, you go to this, you know how to do your job, you perform your job, but then what I never thought about, what do you do when you get home and you're thinking about these things? These things just don't get erased from your brain.
And you were also, would you consider yourself at this point an alcoholic?
No, and I might be wrong. I mean, I was at that time. I considered myself more of a social drinker.
Okay.
I like to, I like to drink and party with friends, but I could live without alcohol.
Okay.
And so, the way I look at it today is I had that bucket that was handed to me empty when I became a first responder. And then all these traumatic events that I was dealing with, it's like you were putting something in my bucket. And it was just getting heavier and heavier and heavier. And even though nobody ever said to me when I went to EMT school, when I went to the fire academy, nobody ever said, if you say that this bothers you, that you're weak. Nobody said that, but it was kind of like that unwritten thing.
It was kind of implied, right?
It was. You don't talk. If you can't handle it, find you another job.
Dude, I can't even imagine that. Like, I get stressed out in my job, but these stressors are, well, I guess it's all relative, but are nothing compared to a first responder on the front lines responding to a house fire, a car accident, an emergency situation. Like, and if there's no outlet, that vent stack is plugged up, and eventually it's going to blow, right?
That's exactly right. And it just keeps coming, and there's more and more. And so it's like that bucket just keeps loading up, and I find myself at home, and, I had started a family. I had a young family, and I had a son. And there was often times that I was sitting there at the house, and I wanted to play with my son, but the wheels were just spinning in my head from, like a traumatic event that I dealt with at work, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And the way that I found I could slow the wheels down was when I put alcohol in my body. That would kind of just numb the thoughts and take the wheels and slow them down where I wasn't focused on that as much. But then what it did to me was I started making me neglect my family. And when I should have been playing with my son out in the backyard, I was sitting in the chair drinking the alcohol, so I didn't have to think about those things. Well, that ultimately ended up, I loved doing that. I loved being EMT and a firefighter, but growing up as a deputy sheriff's son, I always was very enthralled by law enforcement, and I thought, I really want to follow in my dad's footsteps. And so I went to my dad and I said, I've enjoyed doing this in EMS and fire, but I think that what my passion is to be in law enforcement. And I've always loved dogs. And so I said, I think that would be the most amazing job, be in law enforcement and be able to work with dogs. And that was my ultimate goal. That's what I set out to do. And, I, was able to achieve that. And in my career have worked 5 of the finest dogs, I think, in the country. And I've had a very successful career doing that. But when I got into law enforcement, that took me into a whole new arena of this traumatic stuff that I started to experience. And
you're saying, when you go from an EMT and a firefighter into law enforcement, you're saying that those traumatic experiences increased even more so, and the things that you were being exposed to on the job and ultimately having to deal with off the job, right?
That's correct. And well, as first responders, whether it be EMS, fire, law enforcement, we're all experiencing these same things. We're all responding to a lot of the calls together.
Yep.
I guess the best way I could explain it, I started experiencing things, different things. For instance, I was on a call one night where one of our off-duty officers pulled a gun on us, and in a domestic dispute where he was having some mental problems of his own too, and some substance abuse problems. He was off duty. We were at his house, and he pulled a gun on us, and we ultimately had to defend ourselves. And in order to stop him from killing any of us, we had to use deadly force on him.
Oh, my God, dude.
That's just something that I couldn't have even ever made that up that was going to happen, and I was going to be involved in something like that, especially with not only a friend but a coworker. And so now, afterwards, what people don't realize is you're just sent home just to try to put the pieces of the puzzle back together after that. And so I really thought that if I talked to anybody and told them that it was bothering me, that it would be, just damaging to my career. So I just tried to figure it out on my own. And so the only counselor that I ever turned to was Jack Daniels.
That is, it bums me. I mean, to say it bums me out is an understatement, but because we all have our mental health, and the fact that it hasn't really been a part of the conversation on the job for anybody, it really sucks. Because I don't know about you, but I continue to need a helping hand from my wife, from books and, therapists and stuff like that, to sometimes help me just connect the dots that I'm struggling with, dude. So I can't even imagine that, not being comfortable saying, hey, I need help, because maybe that would be a curveball in your career, man.
Yeah, absolutely. The stigma that was there was just like, there's no way. I'm not even telling the closest person in the world to me any of this stuff. I literally would battle it at home, and I would have to go back to work. I'd put on that pressed uniform. I'd put on the smile, and I would go to another 12-hour shift and act like everything was great in my life and nothing was bothering me. All in the meantime, I'm steady just putting more stuff, more traumatic events that are happening, and it's just getting worse. And, the thing about it is you're never calling the EMTs, the fire department, or law enforcement when things are going good. Mm-hmm. When you're calling these men and women, that's when things are at your worst. So we're always responding to the worst of the worst situations for people.
And if there's no outlet for those first responders, yourself included, dude, I don't even know I don't even know what to say to that.
No, and that's exactly right. And I was like, how in the world do these men and women, this is what I was thinking. So I'm like 7, 8, 9 years into this career, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, in just 7, 8, 9 years, I know how I'm feeling and how broken I am.
Yeah.
I mean, I was literally broken. And I'm like, how do these men and women do this for 20, 25, 30, 35 years and survive? And, I responded to a call. It was early evening. I was working the 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. shift. I was working K9, and a call went out in reference to a hanging. And that's what they said, a subject found hanging in the closet. And I'm thinking, of course, your brain automatically clicks to thinking of an adult hung themselves. I've worked multiple suicides, and I get there, and I run in the house, and it's an 8-year-old little boy that hung himself. And that's just not normal. It's not normal to spot a human being hanging, but especially a child. No child should, have to be that tormented by their mental health that they think that that's the only solution. And so I would sit at home and I thought about that little boy, and I would wake up having nightmares, that I was opening the door, finding him again. And the only way I could deal with it, again, was that alcohol. And so these things are happening time and time and time again. Then I respond to a line of duty death where one of our own officers was shot and killed by a burglary suspect. And, I'm at the scene. He's laying dead there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I know this happens, but it doesn't happen here. It doesn't happen in my town, And so all these things are happening. I'm just doing nothing but drinking.
What does that do for your ability to respond to your community as a police officer?
Well, I'm just going to be honest with you. I thought I was being really good, and as far as hiding it from everybody, I think I was, but I wasn't on my A game by any means. To be honest with you, I wouldn't have wanted me responding to your call because I wasn't at my best on any given day. I was a mess, but I was able to, polish myself off. So say if you called me to your house and you had something going on, I could respond. I could, handle myself accordingly. And I was just looking to go to the next call, but I was a mess. Looking back on it now, I guess the best way I'd say, I'd much rather have the Patrick today respond to somebody's house than the Patrick then.
Ultimately, where did this take you as a police officer?
So it took me to a place that I really never would have thought that I would go to. And if you would have told me I would have gone to this place, I would have said, there's no way. You don't know me well enough. And that is suicide, because
gosh, man,
I thought suicide. I thought anybody that would even contemplate suicide, much less attempt it, was weak. They were a coward. They didn't, they weren't tough enough to handle situations. And I found myself sitting in my chair at home, drinking, and the alcohol wasn't working anymore. And I thought to myself, the only way to stop the pain, to stop the mental torture, is to put a bullet in my head. And I truly convinced myself that everybody that loved me would be better off without me in their life. And I was thoroughly convinced by that. And so I went back to my bedroom and I pulled my duty weapon out of my holster and went back in the living room with intentions to shoot myself. And luckily, before I could do it, I passed out. And I woke up the next morning and I was just like, oh my gosh, I have literally just gone to a total another level.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it then.
It just breaks my heart to hear that, because you and I, when we're in high school, we're 17 years old, we're running cross country, we're being stupid teenagers and just, at the time having fun and messing around or whatever. And then this part of your life that you probably never even thought you'd get to is staring you in the face,
I know it. I never thought I'd be there. I never did. And I really struggled in the aftermath of having that thought of shooting myself. I thought to myself, oh my goodness, what in the world is happening here? Because you've never thought that you would be that person.
Yep.
And I truly believe this today. I believe that not only myself, but other people that get to that point, they're having a brain attack. It's easy for me and you to sit here and talk about a heart attack. And if your heart, is misfiring right now while we're having this conversation, then I'm going to say, hey, brother, you need to go to the hospital and you need to get checked because you're having some misfiring going on in your heart. And if you don't do something about it, you're going to die.
And guess what?
That's what I would tell you.
People don't treat the brain attack that you're talking about or mental health with the same importance. I don't know if that's a fact, but it feels like it.
No, they don't. And it's because of the stigma. Somebody was telling me just the other day, and it really hit home with me, and I had never thought about this. They said, Patrick, do you know what the stigma of having cancer was in the 40s? And I was like, no, I wasn't around in the 40s.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. And this was an older person, and they said, it used to be if you said that you had cancer, people would walk out of the room because they were afraid they might catch it. And nobody would hug you and say, oh, man, I'm here for you. It was just like, ooh, that person's got cancer. And so now, fast forward to 2021, we're having, walks and,
Yes.
all kinds of fundraisers. And you find out somebody has cancer and you just go embrace them and you hug them and you tell them you love them. And that's the way it should be. I'm so glad that that's where it is, but it's not always been that way. And that's where we need to be with mental health too.
I do believe over the past 5 years, we have made some serious gains, but you're not going to turn the boat in a positive direction in 5 years when for decades, we have been embarrassed personally to talk about it. We're scared for our jobs to talk about it. We don't want to lose friends or have somebody laugh at us or say you're weird or nuts for bringing this up. So we don't talk about it. And that has taken its toll. And as a police officer, first responder, goodness, it certainly will give you a different perspective when you look at that profession. Somebody driving an ambulance through traffic at 100 miles an hour with the lights blasting and the sirens going, and you don't know what their personal story is while they're on the job, man. That's scary.
That's right. You're absolutely right. And I applaud you for, taking this so serious and putting this out there so your followers and your listeners can hear this, because not only if it will, possibly help one of them or more than one person, but might educate somebody, because again, I've always thought that I was that tough guy that could handle everything, and you can pitch any pitch towards me and I can catch it and I can handle it. And this is the one that I couldn't. This is the one that took me down and almost cost me my life, because moving forward from that, I still, with that stigma, refuse to ask for help. I'm still getting this stuff, piled on me. My bucket's getting full. Fast forward to February 2003, I tried to hang myself in a hotel. The belt broke after I had already gone unconscious, and I woke up on the bathroom floor after the belt breaking that I had hung myself in the bathroom with. And I looked in the mirror and I thought to myself, I can't even kill myself. I'm trying my best to kill myself and I cannot even kill myself. And the longest days and months of my entire life were from February 2003 to July 22nd, 2003. And it seemed like the days just never would end. And finally, on July 22nd, 2003, I looked myself in the mirror. My hand was shaking so bad I couldn't even hardly hold the toothbrush to brush my teeth. And I said, I don't care what it costs me. I don't care if it costs me my career. I don't care if it costs me friends, family. I'm going to ask for help. I'm going to do whatever I've got to do to get Patrick back. And as a result of doing that, not only did I not lose my career, I didn't lose my family, I didn't lose my friends. I've got a career that I never would have expected and have taken it to a level that I never expected.
Oh, my goodness.
My family and friends I'm closer to. I'm closer to my kids. I have not found it necessary to have a drink of alcohol since July 22nd, 2003, that morning that I looked in the mirror. And I have not been suicidal either, and that's huge. That is huge. But I got to tell you this, brother. I literally, because people will say, how do you do it, Patrick? You're coming up on 18 years without a drink of alcohol and not being suicidal. How do you do it? Well, I train like a professional athlete trains to be a professional athlete. I put as much time and effort into my mental health. I put that much into it. I stay on my A game because I know if I don't, and I don't take it seriously every morning when my feet hit the ground, that I will go back. I truly believe that I could go back to that. And so that's why I take it so serious. And that's why I'm so willing to be open and talk about it, because I don't ever want to forget where I came from too.
Patrick, I applaud you, and I've got a lot of respect for you to share such a personal life story, your journey on some pretty bad days, and to where you are now. You're married, your children, do you have a good relationship with them?
I have a great relationship with them. Throughout this, these horrible times of my life, and when I was struggling, I went through 2 marriages and 2 divorces. I've gotten remarried for the 3rd time in sobriety and have a very healthy marriage. She has 2 children. I have 2 children that I brought into the marriage, and we've got a very healthy relationship. All our kids get along. All our kids are grown and are very productive members of society today. I've got a son that wanted to follow in my footsteps, my oldest son, and he is now a Georgia State Trooper. And one of the things that I love, and I'm so passionate about spreading, my message and my experience, strength, and hope with men and women in law enforcement especially, is because I want my son's generation, the generation behind us, to say, why wouldn't those guys and gals ask for help? There's all these resources and they can get help. Why wouldn't they ask for help? And so that's why I'm so passionate for that. And it's not just that. I mean, I work with men and women from law enforcement all the way to I work with the homeless population in my city that are struggling with addiction. Anybody that I can help, and they certainly all help me.
This is incredible to me, and to be able to spend a half an hour with you talking about this and telling your story. I'm going to go back to one of the first things that I said was, I hope there's more than one person, but if there's just one person that's in a situation right now where you were sitting in that chair years ago, feeling like there was nobody else that could help you but one thing, and that's, Jack Daniels and perhaps taking your own life. If there's one person in that situation right now that either takes a step forward or picks up the telephone and asks for help, I think we've done a pretty incredible thing with this conversation.
I agree. And I don't think it's a coincidence that, you and I have reconnected, and the things that we're having the opportunity to do, I don't think it's a coincidence at all. And, brother, you mean the world to me, man. And I'm glad that, you're still in my life. Likewise.
If you would, tell everybody where you are for a job right now. Where has your EMT and your firefighting skills and your law enforcement career taken you to right now?
So it took me to work for our police association, the Southern States Police Benevolent Association, which is an association that just helps our brothers and sisters in law enforcement. And my main job is to help any of the men and women in law enforcement that may be struggling with anything, as a result of their career. So this is something that I would do for free. And they approached me. I didn't even look for this job. And so, again, I thought I would be washed out of this career. It's been much more productive. And so every day when I get up, I have the opportunity to help my brothers and sisters. And the best way I can describe it is, I just got off the phone a little while ago with a guy that's been in this career for many years, and he's really struggling. And I said to him, brother, I have been in the bottom of that hole that you don't know how to get out of.
Good gosh.
I said, I'm jumping down in that hole with you today, and I'm going to show you the way out. And that's what I get to do today.
This is a pretty emotional time for me in this conversation when I hear that, because nobody necessarily was there for you in a job like you're doing now. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yep, that's correct. And so I'm glad that, I'm just so grateful that I'm in a position to change that.
I really appreciate you and the man that you have become. And I'm sorry that you had to deal with those things years ago that drove you to the point that it did. And all we can do right now is move forward based on our life experiences and the trials and the tribulations and the ups and downs. And I believe that those things, for all of us, make us who we are right now. And I feel like in my own life, personally and professionally, man, I've had some serious hiccups. I want to say I don't feel like they compare to yours. But again, I also feel like whether you're a police officer or an EMT or a forklift operator. If you're dealing with mental health issues or substance abuse issues, it's all relative to our own lives, right?
That's exactly right. And I was working with a guy recently that's not even in law enforcement, never been in law enforcement, and he's a welder by trade, and he hasn't experienced any trauma in his welding career, but he's experienced a lot of personal trauma, and he had a lot of childhood trauma. And I don't care what it is. If it gets you to this point, especially this point where there's no hope.
Yep.
It's a deep, dark place, and I tell people too, and I say, I know people don't understand that are still struggling, but I'm actually glad that everything that happened to me did.
Yep.
I know that's weird to say, because I don't think I'd be the man I am today if I had not experienced all that too.
I align myself with exactly that. I was going through a divorce, lost my job in 2010, got another job and lost it again after 7 months. So two job losses and a divorce in the same year. And it was a super tough spot, and my debt started spiraling out of control. I had to borrow money from my mom, and there was a point at which I never thought I would ever pay her back, and I didn't want to be some 40-year-old dude that was up to his ass in debt with only a part-time job and going through life not even knowing what the day would bring. And I will tell you, 12 years later, I have just celebrated my 3-year wedding anniversary. I have never found happiness like this in my entire life with a personal relationship. And the older I get, the more prosperous my career has gotten. And I can't believe it, because normally it goes the other way, right? As you get older, you start to kind of see the end of the path for your career. And when I say, I'm thriving, I'm not even talking about monetary success. My happiness level and passion doing this job on the radio here in Chicago has brought me happiness that I never thought professionally I would ever get. So that has made me very thankful. I take nothing for granted, and that's not just giving you lip service, man. Like, I am glad looking back that I got fired 2 times, because it has made me hungry and more passionate about going to work every day and being at my best than I ever thought I could be had that not happened. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah. So you know exactly what I'm talking about, and that's what I want men and women to know, that sometimes we can take the worst of the worst in our lives and turn it around to make it a positive.
Patrick, you're a badass. I'm telling you that right now.
Man, I appreciate it. I think the world of you too, brother. I firmly believe that I have been blessed with some of the best people brought into my life, and you're one of those, man. I got great memories of our friendship for many years.
I appreciate you saying that. If somebody is listening right now, are they, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but are they able to use you as a resource just to pick up the phone or send an email and spend a few minutes with you?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm telling you, the way I look at it, I really do. I do a lot of this for selfish reasons, because I'm scared to death. I don't ever want to go back to that life. And so that's why I tell people, man, I need their help too. So yes, if you want to share with any of your followers, any of your listeners, how to get in touch with me.
Is there a good email address?
Yes, it's P. Cullinan, PCULLINAN at SSPBA.org. P. Cullinan at SSPBA.org. S is in Sam, S is in Sam, P is in Paul, C is in boy, A is in Adam. SSPBA, I'm sorry.
Got it. Okay. P. Cullinan at SSPBA.org.
That's it, brother.
Dude, respect. And whether I'm back down in Georgia or you're up in the Midwest, it would be a real pleasure to reconnect and just maybe get some dinner or some appetizers and catch up. It's been a very long time since I've seen you in person, but this time on the phone means the world to me. So thank you.
Well, thank you too, and I would love to catch up and meet that beautiful wife of yours.
Likewise. And do you have any dogs? You do have a corgi, don't you?
I do. I have 2 corgis. I have Wally in Georgia, and I have my retired bomb dog, which is named Tilda. She's a beautiful lab, and not only did she serve as a bomb dog here in my city with me, but she served 2 tours in Afghanistan with the Marines before coming stateside to finish out her career as a bomb dog.
Whoa, dude. You know, that's funny because anytime when we were living in Washington, D.C., we would go to DCA and we'd be waiting in line for the TSA, and the bomb dogs would walk the line, and you could see somebody get nervous, and the guy was like, don't worry, it's not a drug dog, it is a bomb dog. You know what I mean,
That's right.
dude?
That's right. I tell people, I say, if you see my dog at the house alert on something, run, because she's not alerting on drugs. She's alerting on something that goes boom.
Oh my goodness! I can't wait to maybe to meet these superstar dogs in person, dude. Thank you for the time.
Hey, you're welcome, brother. Thank you, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.